ultimately, the most important thing is he was one of a kind, their family is one of a kind, and he will be truly missed. I have one funny story about him. So the last time that he and I got to go out for a spin, we went to, I think it was Dog River Coffee, and we were getting ready to leave, and a guy pulls up in a Land Cruiser next to us, and Butch elbows me in the shoulder, and he goes, watch this. He leans out, and he goes, hey, nice Jeep. And the guy goes, it's a Land Cruiser. Butch goes, same thing, not as good. And the guy just goes, oh, you just see him boil. Butch goes, I can't take a joke. But that was a good one. Anyway, thank you.
Talk of memories. Most of you know that I've been with Butch since I was 16 years old, and he was 19. He was an older guy. My mom said the only reason I was allowed to go out with him because he had such a nice mom and dad. We had our first date right over there in that 66 Chevelle Beaumont, and he took me out in it because he had another car that many of you were aware of was this 55 Chevy. But he said he was afraid that he would scare me off if he took me out in it. I think he forgot that I'm Dave Farley's sister. So I wasn't real scared, but I will tell you that a few days later he took me to the drive-in with his 8-track tape blaring, and he stopped the tape real fast. He gets real serious. He looks at me and he goes, "This next song is my theme song." He's dead serious, and I said, "Oh," and it's the Eagles, "Getting Out of Control." And if you know the song, that's my husband. I said I should have been a warning to me what the next 40 years were going to be like with him, because it was always exciting. We did have an exciting life, especially in the times when Butch decided to outrun the police officers, and I want to apologize for that. I'm still guilt-stricken over the years. Seriously, because he put a lot of people in danger, including me. And but it makes for some really crazy stories. Some of you were with him on the maiden voyage when that night, probably out there somewhere. A retired state trooper walked up to me many years ago. Joe was a toddler, toddling next to me. He walked up to me and he said, "You're Butch Gehrig's wife, aren't you?" He says, "Well, he sure was hell on wheels, but he turned into a fine man." Here's some memories I want to jog your memories with, because many of you were with us during these times. Driving in the rain at 3 a.m. in James Williams' black Monte Carlo. We're blaring Beach Boys and we're singing at the top of our lungs. I didn't have a voice the next day, but we sure had fun. I often told Butch that we had more fun than any two people I knew, and I mean that. And even if it was just the two of us in the Beaumont, going to town, get an ice cream cone, and just enjoying ourselves. But even that can get exciting when a new Corvette pulls up next to you and it's game on. Right, Wade Hogue, wherever you are? And thanks to John Harvey, who was a fresh sheriff deputy who decided to give them one chance. We won't tell how fast they were driving, but it was game on. I said to Butch, "For God's sakes, you're 54 years old and you're still doing this." I wasn't real happy with it. Butch was a good leader, as his service on the boards that he served showed. Bossy, yes. I once told him that I didn't think I could make it through life without him telling me what to do and bossing me around, and he agreed. He said, "Yeah, you can." He was a good, strong leader because he was a good listener. People would have terrible things happen, and they would come to the station and he would listen to them. You know, many of you know I sold the station July 30th, and I'm sorry for all of you that are sad for that, but it was Butch and my dream for him to sell that. We were going to sell the station before he turned 65, and he would have been 65 in November. It was a hard day because he wasn't with me to see the fulfillment of the dream. And I was having a hard day, as many who were witness to. And my friend Julie, not that Julie, different Julie, who's a woman of faith, just like this one is, came up to me and said, "Tricia, he's in a better place than you are." And he is. So now I'm going to be quiet. Please come on up and share some stories. I want to laugh through our tears together. Thank you. He loved you.
My name's Sean.
Yeah, the guy with the Jeep.
I was driving the Land Cruiser. Still over there. But I want to just, I'm from back east. I don't know if a lot of you know me, but I'm from back east, past Missouri. There's more east. Anyway, I came out here, and most of the people that I've met in the Hood River, Odell area came from relationships or whatever where I met them at the shop, at the Chevron. And what struck me the most is how small town Americana Gehrig Chevron was. It is, and I used to say that how epic that is, like the last stand of a full service gas station that I've ever seen in my life. Coming across the United States. not seeing anything like that back east, or the shops had been closed many years ago. One of my funniest experiences, though, is when I was standing in there. Kathy Franks' dad was in there, and many of the other old timers, which I thought was the coolest thing, to just sit in there and talk about the weather. You know, they had their newspapers out. I got talking in there one day, and Butch was there, and somebody mentioned something. I said, well, I'm from back east. I got sent here to open up the gene pool in this valley. And you could have heard a pin drop. But anyway, Bob Williams, he's another one of those transplants too. But anyway, I have had a lot of experiences with Butch, and there's just so many things. The Lost Lake snow run that we did for years and years, where I remember Butch, everyone else is in a nice warm vehicle, and Butch is up there. It's pouring rain. He's got no top on his Jeep, and he's just in there. It's like, you know, we'd all go by. You got a heater in there, Butch? You know, things like that. Just making fun of the whole Land Cruiser Willys thing. Went on for years. NAPCO, GMC, all those things were just cut up things. But I also remember, you know, those of you that missed out on the caroling that we did, was another tremendous experience. And we would do it no matter what the weather was. We had great snow evenings sometimes. Sometimes it would be raining, and Butch was ready to go out the door and do it. You know, he was just, you know, and watching all the kids grow into that. But, you know, just an amazing experience for me personally. My sons are into three-wheelers because of Butch and James. You know, that relationship with my wife and his family through the years. And it's just, again, remember the shop, Americana. There's no other place that was like it I've ever seen. And I loved it, and I appreciate it. And I'm glad that I was able to experience that. So thank you very much.
That's my better half right there. Anyway, I want to talk first of all the family connection with the Gehrigs. My grandparents, my grandfather hunted with Rudy for years. My dad went with the Gehrigs hunting for years over east, and just my grandfather hung out at the station. He was one of those guys in the morning. And my father for years and years, especially after my mom had Alzheimer's. And growing up with Butch, he was my brother's best friend for years, and my other brother's good friend, Mark. I'm a Williams. I was a Williams. I'm a Bohans now. I don't think I had a nickname. I don't think so. But the thing, yeah, I was the little tag along all the time for sure. Rode crazy cars, too fast with Butch and James. But the thing that I remember, especially with Butch, when he'd come over to our family dinners, instead of, as he's walking out the door, hey, thanks, Shirley, thank you, Arlen, for dinner, he took time to go over and personally speak with my mom in a quiet manner and say, you know, almost in a whisper, thank you for dinner. He's not a showy person. He loved family. We used to play volleyball. He would gather. He loved having people around. He loved the milkshakes. I had milkshakes in his honor this summer because it was like, just made me think of it. I had fresh raspberries. I had to make a milkshake and be thinking about Butch. He just loved family. And we were all his family, all of us. Odell was his family. And he will be missed. He will be.
Okay, I was told to tell one more here. It came to mind when you spoke of the chili and cinnamon rolls. So Butch used to come over to the Mid-Valley Elementary when I was at school there, and he would pop in and eat lunch with us kids. And all the kids knew him there. so well. In fact, I was telling my wife that I didn't even get to sit with Uncle Butch. All the other kids, I get to sit with him. And so the kids would surround Uncle Butch, and he'd be there on the cinnamon roll and chili day for sure. He was there, and they knew him by name. The cooks, come on in. He got skipped right to the front of the line, and got royal treatment, and just because of who he was, and it was just a great memory. But around the food, one last thing, in high school I owned a Toyota pickup. I call it a kid truck now, but I loved it back then. But Uncle Butch told me, he said, I know why you couldn't get up the hill, your parents there. He's like, you got a Toyota. What the heck are you driving that thing for? And I said, oh yeah, and I kind of just dismissed it. But I can say he'd probably be pretty proud of me now because I drive a big Chevy pickup.
I think it was 77. We were dragging the gut, and I had parked my truck where Owen Chevrolet is. It's Walgreens now. We were coming back up through town, headed towards the ranch, and I guess we were just talking about all the crazy things we had done. And I was in the back seat. There were three of us. Which is 67. And I told Butch, I said, I think I've done just about anything that can run the police. And that's all it took. There was a police officer, city police officer at, what do they call it? They're at high school stop. The tip top. Writing somebody a ticket. Butch stopped right there in front of him, revved it up, and off we went. There was another police officer at Rosark writing somebody a ticket. And there was no stoplight where Napa is now. When we went through that intersection there in Elliott, I was in the back seat. I had a perfect view of the road ahead, the speedometer, and what was going on behind me. We were doing 125. In a quarter of a mile, I found myself being navigator on a speeding bullet. Butch was driving and saying, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I knew the road, so when we got to Booth's Corner, it's a 90-degree corner, we went swooping through that. At the Catholic Church was a left-hand turn 90 degrees. Out to Nobby's, another 90-degree corner, straight out to Windmaster Corner, and we were still screaming. The speedometer was still pegged, and there were blue lights behind us. Which says, what do I do? What do I do? Well, we knew there'd be an officer waiting at Gehrig's. So I told him, Butch, go through the intersection, onto Barrett. We went down into the dip. I said, turn your lights off. We turned the lights off. At the bottom of the dip is Alameda. We turned 90 degrees there. Down Alameda over to Belmont. West on Belmont to my parents' house. Screamed down their driveway. Parked behind the barn. Threw a green army tarp over the top of it and walked in the house. We were all buzzed with adrenaline, just trembling. My mom and dad said, what's going on? So we had to tell them we had no car. I took my mom's Cutlass, we drove it back, got in my truck, dropped their car back off at their house, took Butch back up to Odell. A week later, we pulled the car off that Camaro, and he drove it home. In 2001, Butch knew how much I loved that Beaumont. And in early December, I had just lost my brother. And the Beaumont comes up in my driveway, sparkling like a jewel. He says, let's go for a ride. I don't think we'd gone a mile when he pulled over, handed me the keys, and let me drive. And we just talked. I drove, he talked. That's the kind of guy Butch was. He gave me a gift that day that pulled me out of a very dark hole. And I'll never forget it for that. So, thanks.
Butch was always really, really sweet, and one night we ran into him at Mid-Valley Market getting ice cream, and he insisted we come over to make milkshakes. It was like 8 o'clock at night, and I had the little pajamas on. I was like, no, I can't go over there, I'm so embarrassed, but we went over and had milkshakes with you and Joe, and it was really fun. And yeah, he was so sweet. He'll be so missed.
So I'll continue with the ice cream theme. I'm Emily Gehrig, Colin's wife. I was like 17 probably. So that was quite a while ago. 17, Colin and I started hanging out, spending time together, seeing that interest. And I worked at Twin Peaks Drive-In, and I would bring Colin a chocolate peanut butter milkshake. Every night, I would get off at 7, he would get off at 7. I'd go to the Chevron and take him a chocolate peanut butter milkshake. And I did that for a couple months. One day, Butch comes up to me, and he knows me through church and family friends and families. And he says, I like ice cream too. So from that point forward, I had to bring a chocolate peanut butter milkshake and one of those ones with the orange sodas. He liked that one. Creamsicle, that's what it is. Yes, thank you.
Hello, my name is Freddie Enriquez. I was about 10 years old, and my dad had bought his first chainsaw down at the Coast to Coast in town. So we knew that it needed some type of oil that you put in the gas. So I was Dad's translator. So we go to Butch, and Dad asked him about this mysterious oil that you put in this gas. So I explained it to Butch, and Butch goes, 2-cycle. And I didn't know any better, so I was like, yeah, sure, okay. My dad goes, no. You know the ring. Butch just fell down laughing, cracking up, and I'm still embarrassed to this day telling that story. But that was both of them, rest in peace, both missed.
Hi, my name's Becky. I had the chance to meet Butch starting out in kindergarten with him, and we all know that Butch was just a rock in the community, but one of the things I really came to cherish about Butch was as my father aged and he retired, I think maybe he had a little bit of a hard time knowing what to do with himself and where to go. And Butch's station became the place for Dad and his friends, and that's the way my dad's day started out for another 25 years. And the really special thing to me as I think about that, sorry I'm a little shaky, is that Butch was a really great friend to me, to Pat, to Randy, to Dennis, to all of us that start out in kindergarten, all the way through our lives. But he had that ability to be a really great friend to my father too, and it was so fun to have my father be friends with someone I had been friends with, if that makes sense. Yeah. And the Gehrig family's just been so special in our community. I can remember as a little girl, my dad knew how to do a lot of things, but motors were not his thing. And I remember we had a big snowstorm, and Dad couldn't get the car started up there, and so Rudy came all the way from town, and I don't know if he had to walk up our driveway or what he had to do to get up to our house, but to work on the car and get it going, and that was something that Butch did for all of us. He took care of my cars, and my stepmom's always been able to go over there and just go, Butch, what do I need? And he would do it. So we do miss him, but we know we'll see him again. And Butch, from all the girls in the class of 1975, I want to thank you for all the bags of candy you gave to us through kindergarten and grade school. We thought you were our only one, or we were your only one.
Hey, Jeff Gehrig, nephew, Dan, Judy, and Ron, son. The biggest thing for me that comes to mind is just how Butch was always there. And from tiny child, and oh, by the way, AKA Buppy, thanks to my sister, but Butch picked up on that nickname, and that was the nickname. And I'll never forget, Butch had a t-shirt made for me. We were in the parades, and Buppy had said on the back, and we were part of the three-wheeler club. And he always included us kids in everything he did. He would turned us on to the quads and back then it was three-wheelers. And my parents weren't too keen on us kids riding around on three-wheelers. And Butch is a good guy when he convinced them to let us have our own. And he basically, courtesy of Butch, he brought the three-wheeler over and he's like, this is for you kids. And we rode that thing till the wheels basically fell off. Just through the years, going to see Butch, I have the fond memories of going to see Butch at Grandma and Grandpa's place. And his back room, he had set up so immaculate. It was amazing of the slot cars and the train. And I'll never forget the scene that he had set up. He had snow with people and just the towns. This stuff, it takes some art. And I remember when he had to take that down, I was like, don't take that down. That was a lot of work. But then he started his own thing, of course, when Butch and Aunt Tricia moved over here, and just the coolest thing, us kids, and I know all the cousins and everybody have memories of racing slot cars. And finally I got to a point where, I purchased my own car through Butch and got pretty serious. I would come over and I'm like, okay, I gotta beat Butch. And, but maybe a few times he let me win, but I beat him legit a few times myself. So anyway, I just gotta say, he'll be greatly missed. Great guy. Everything a kid would want in an uncle, I'll tell you that. When I was little, and I'm sorry to my other uncles, but when I was a little kid, I used to say, Butch is my favorite uncle. I love all my other uncles as well. All right.
I'm Lisa Arikelian, which is one of Butch's nieces, and I belong to Kathy Gehrig, the oldest Gehrig sister. So I grew up in Portland. I'm not part of the Valley community in the same way, but I do have a lot of memories, of course, starting with Margaret and Rudy, and I know Butch and Patricia knew me since before I knew them, since before I was aware of things. I was in their wedding as their flower girl in 1982, I think. And then my sister Linda and I, she's the next one after me, we actually stayed in the little house with them. I don't really know where they put us, but I remember we stayed there. And Butch taught us the song, La 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 Linda. When I go to sleep, I never count sheep, I count all the charms of Linda. And then when they built their house in 88, that became the focus of our family gatherings for years. And I'll forever be grateful that we had so many wonderful hosted gatherings with the extended family there at Butch and Tricia's. Everybody's heard about the ice cream, the slot cars. It was all lots of fun. And then when I was old enough, I'm not really a car person. I'm not knowledgeable either about those things, but Butch sold me my first vehicle, which was a 1984 Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra. And this was in like August of 2000. And they had a nickname for it. It was the Surger. I paid $1,500 for that vehicle, and it lasted maybe 3 or 4 months. But at least Butch disposed of it for me, and I got a couple $100 back when he sold the tires, so that was good. And then when I had, I went for the practical, reliable Corolla that lasts forever. For years, I would drive from Portland to get work done on it. I know he undercharged me because I trusted him, and knew that he would be honest, and the people he worked with, Paco and Randy and everybody else, would do good work. Who knows, maybe my other cousins worked on it as well. But he was just the kind of guy, he didn't care about being cool or popular. He cared about doing what was right. If you search on YouTube, I don't even know how I found it years ago. He is in a smoke-free Oregon commercial. And just watching that, it's like, that's Butch, pure Butch. I know in the last years with his illness, he wasn't himself anymore. But I'll always remember the Butch that you see in that commercial, just a guy doing the right thing and not looking for fame or fortune or anything like that. Just there for everybody.
Hi there. I just wanted to say that your guys' home always felt so warm and inviting, and from the walls covered with names next to the slot machines and excuse me, and Kato and Nikki and even the little Moose. You guys truly gave us a home away from home, and I just wanted to thank you two for that.
Hey there, I'm Jason, or Buzzy to Butch, Butch's nephew from the coast. And when I was about 13, like many of my other cousins, I came up to, or I worked at the Chevron. But unlike my other cousins, I knew nothing about cars. I still know nothing about cars, as you might have guessed from looking at me, I guess. Needless to say, Butch was incredibly patient with me as he tried to show me how to patch tires, how to check and change oil half a dozen times before he realized Jason's more of the kind of like pump the gas, sweep the dirt over the oil spills, spritz the bathroom, that ancient bathroom at the station with bleach. That was my lane. I was very good at that. But that summer, Butch also took me up to the orchard to try to show me how to drive a stick shift. I should say I still don't know how to drive a stick shift. But we were going around up at the orchard in that Willie's Jeep over there, the maroon one. If you've noticed, that Jeep has a crack in the windshield. I put that crack in that Jeep's windshield when I was about 13. So, but thankfully, Butch, as great of a Jeep as that was, he forgave me. Yeah, just a great uncle, someone who was really patient and really had a way with kids. I feel like he really had a way with young ones. And I think that all of his nieces and nephews can attest to that. Thanks.
Yep, Jason is right. He really loved and appreciated that Butch was a kid at heart and always loved sharing his toys with us. And Patricia and Joe, thank you guys for always having us over at your place and just being so welcome. And Butch really, he showed us a great example of just how to be a welcoming person. And we're all from outside of Hood River and Odell, so it was always a real treat for us to come out here. And of course you feel like family with your family, but especially with you guys, just always being so patient, so generous, so welcoming, and our hearts are just still broken from losing Butch. But I love to hear about how he really was the glue in this community. He really brought a lot of people together with his milkshakes and three-wheelers and just everything that he did for all of us. So thank you, Butch. Thank you for being an example to all of us, to just how to love life.
Love you, Butch. Love you.